Okay, so we're diving into this this RAG thing, the one that's got everyone in the AI world like buzzing.
Yeah, lots of hype around it, that's for sure.
And we're going deep on this one today, really trying to figure out, what it actually is.
Right, like is it really as revolutionary as everyone's saying?
Exactly. And we found this blog post. It's called RAG a Dream, and it's shattering. And we thought, yeah, let's dig into this.
Yeah, catchy title.
Right.
And, it really gets to the heart of the whole debate around RAG,
Yeah.
Retrieval Augmented Generation, that's what it stands for, by the way.
Right.
But the basic idea, the core concept, is pretty elegant when you think about it,
Okay.
Combining those large language models, those LLMs.
Like ChatGPT.
Exactly, like ChatGPT, but giving them access to, like, these massive, huge external databases.
Yeah. So instead of just relying on, like, what it's already learned, it can pull in new information all the time.
Exactly. Imagine it's like giving ChatGPT a direct line to the Library of Congress or something.
Whoa, okay. So it's learning all the time.
Constantly updating.
So, like, if you ask it a question, it could give you a really specific answer.
Yeah. And not just an answer. It could back it up with data, like research papers, the latest news, you name it.
Okay, now that is cool.
Right. That's the dream. But this blog post, I gotta say, it's written by someone who clearly, they get AI, they really understand it.
They're not just, hyping it up.
Exactly. And they don't hold back on the limitations of RAG.
Which, the title kind of gives away a dream, and it's shattering.
Yeah, no kidding. Right. And to get their point across, the author uses this really interesting analogy. They compare all the excitement about RAG to upgrading a Porsche.
Okay, I'm listening. I like Porsches.
Right. Who doesn't? But they're saying it's like upgrading a Porsche with a spare tire from a Susita.
A Susita.
Yeah, so a Susita, just so you know, it's this like really basic kind of clunky Israeli car like from the 60s.
Okay, so not exactly known for its performance tires.
No, not at all.
So they're saying just slap it on like the fancy new feature.
Doesn't mean you've actually solved the, the underlying problem.
Right, it's still a Susita tire.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see where they're going with this. But, the thing is, I've heard companies like OpenAI and Google are actually using RAGs.
Yeah, they are.
And those are like the big players in AI, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely at the forefront.
So that makes you think, well, if they're using it, there must be something to it, right?
Right, and that's where this whole deep dive gets even more interesting. So the author argues that what a lot of people are calling RAG these days isn't really truly RAG, like not how it was originally imagined.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so back in 2020, when this whole RAG thing emerged, LLMs were way simpler.
Right, they've come a long way since then.
Exactly. They couldn't deal with the amount of data they can handle now. So back then, RAG was more about finding like a few relevant sentences.
Just like snippets?
Yeah, snippets from external sources and basically just kind of, shoving them into the model's output.
Like a Band-Aid solution?
Yeah, exactly. Not a real integration of the information.
Okay, so what's changed?
Well, now you've got things like in-context learning. LLMs can process like way bigger chunks of text directly. It's like they've got a much bigger working memory.
So instead of just a sentence here and there, they can look at a whole document.
Yeah, a whole document, maybe even more, all at once. It's a game changer.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense. But I'm guessing it's not all smooth sailing from there.
You got it. And this is where the blog post really digs deep. The author believes that this whole fixation on RAG is misplaced. They argue the real bottleneck, the real problem, is the effectiveness of what's called semantic search.
Semantic search. Okay, I'm going to need you to break that one down for me. What is that?
Right. So basically, semantic search is all about how these AI models find the right information inside those massive data sets.
Yeah.
But what the author seems to be getting at is that it's not as good as it needs to be. It's like, imagine having access to the entire Library of Congress.
Yeah.
But the card catalog is a complete mess.
So you're saying even with all that potential, if the AI can't find the right information to use, it's still going to fall short.
Exactly.
It's like, what's the point of all that knowledge if you can't even, access it?
Exactly. It's like having, all the ingredients for some amazing gourmet meal, but then you open your pantry and it's just like chaos. You can't find anything.
Right. You'd never be able to make anything good. It'd just be a mess.
Exactly. And that brings us to, I think, the most interesting part of this blog post. So the author's saying, maybe, just maybe, we're so focused on this whole, making ARG work thing that we're missing a more elegant solution completely.
Okay, hold on. I got to know, what's this alternative? if this semantic search thing is so hard to fix, what else is there?
So the author points to this company, Anthropic.
Anthropic, okay.
And they're doing things a little differently, and the author seems to think they might be onto something.
I've heard of them. They make Claude, right, in one of those like cutting-edge LLMs.
That's the whole...
And they've got that whole thing about like AI safety and ethics. Right?
Exactly. They're trying to be really thoughtful about how they develop AI, which is maybe why they're taking a different approach than some of the other, bigger companies.
So what are they doing differently? How are they approaching this whole RAG thing?
So while everyone else is trying to bolt on these external databases to their LLMs, right? Anthropic is all about the power of context. They're really pushing for larger context windows within the LM itself.
Context windows. Okay, I'm not sure I get what you mean. What are those?
Okay, so imagine it like this. The context window is like the AI's working memory.
Yes.
It's how much information it can hold in its mind at once,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the bigger the context window, the more it can remember at once.
Exactly. And Anthropic is betting that if we can just make these context windows big enough, then we don't need a separate retrieval system at all.
Wow, okay. So instead of giving the AI a to-do list and hoping it can find all the information it needs to finish the task, it's more like we're giving it everything it needs to know up front.
You got it. It's think about the difference between giving someone a super detailed map, right? One with all the landmarks already marked and everything,
Okay.
versus just handing them a compass and a really vague description of where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the detailed map.
Yeah.
But, I mean, can these LLMs really handle that much information all at once? Won't that make them slower or less accurate?
It's definitely a trade-off. But Anthropic, they're thinking long-term. They're saying, as these LLMs get more sophisticated, the key is going to be being able to process all that information directly.
So it's not just about having access to the information. It's about understanding it.
Exactly. And they're already making moves in that direction. They've got this new feature called prompt caching.
Prompt caching, what's that?
So it basically allows the AI to remember past interactions.
Okay.
So if you ask it about, I don't know, let's say the history of jazz music, it can store that information in its context window.
Right.
And then, if you ask it something else about jazz music later on, it can refer back to that earlier conversation.
Oh, so it's like the AI is building its own, internal knowledge base as it goes, constantly learning and making connections.
Exactly. And the author of this blog post seems to think this could be a major step towards what they call the final elimination of RAG.
Wow, the final elimination. That's pretty dramatic. They really think this is it, huh? RAG is going to be obsolete.
They seem to, yeah. They think as these LLMs become more powerful, more efficient, we won't even need a separate retrieval system anymore.
Okay, my mind is, blown right now. Are we really talking about a future where AI has this, vast understanding of everything?
It's a bold prediction.
It could have a conversation with you about anything, pulling from all different fields, all these different perspectives, just seamlessly?
It's definitely a possibility. Remember, in context learning, imagine scaling that up exponentially. The LLM wouldn't need to fetch any external information because it would already know it.
Whoa. Okay, this is really making me rethink this whole ARG thing. It sounds like we're stuck in this weird in-between phase.
Yeah.
Still using all this terminology that might not even be relevant for much longer.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this blog post. It's not just about debunking the hype around RAG. It's making us think beyond our current limitations,
What if this is just the beginning? So while everyone else is busy, trying to perfect RAG, Anthropic is hold on a second. What if we just completely rethought this whole thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that really gets to a recurring theme in this blog post, this healthy skepticism of these quick fixes and AI,
Yeah.
The author, they really seem to get the raw power of these large language models, and they're kind of suggesting that maybe, the answer isn't always about just adding more stuff on.
Right. It's about making the core technology itself better.
Exactly. Refine what we already have.
Instead of just trying to patch it up with all these other things.
And exactly. And it's we get so used to thinking inside the box, right? We forget to even consider that. A completely different approach might be the answer.
Yeah, we get stuck in that hype cycle, whatever the next, big algorithm is, the next technique, that's going to be the solution.
And this blog post is a good reminder that sometimes the most elegant solution is just make what you already have better.
Yeah, build a stronger foundation. And I think that's really why this whole deep dive into our ag has been so interesting.